losing my voice a little bit. Yesterday on New Year's Eve, I was celebrating my birthday and I got excited. And when I'm excited, sometimes I do scream when I'm excited because I'm autistic. But I wanted to talk about some things I've experienced that are really scary, specifically with psychosis. Now, for those of you guys who don't know, psychosis, also known as psychotic disorder, the type I have is unspecified psychotic disorder. It's a disorder characterized distorted memory, hallucinations, difficulty speaking, short-term and long-term memory problems, and lack of hand-eye coordination, weight fluctuations, lack of personal hygiene, tics, intrusive thoughts, obsessive compulsive behaviors, delusions, and also disorientation, basically. So I saw this one person's art project about dementia, and even though I don't have dementia, and I think only 2 family members of mine got dementia, people with my type of psychosis, that genetically caused psychosis, when someone else in your family has psychosis and you get that passed down to you, you're at greater risk for developing dementia as you get older. And I know for a fact that, unfortunately, because of the fact that I'm psychotic, I am at much higher risk for developing early onset dementia or Alzheimer's. So I wanted to explain basically my thoughts on this particular art project that this person made as a psychotic person who has memory problems because of this bitch's psychosis. So sorry, something was on the camera, but I'll show you what I'm talking about right now. You might be wondering, Star, what the hell is that? Well, this person basically made music. Basically, the music and also the images that this person made was basically a artistic depiction of dementia and memory loss. Dementia also has psychotic symptoms as well, so that's why I relate to it so much. Sometimes some people are misdiagnosed with dementia when it's really a psychosis, which is way more treatable with medication and shit. Me personally, sometimes I use marijuana to help with it. Don't worry, I am 21, by the way. I just recently started using marijuana to help with the paranoia and confusion part, which that's what it helps me with. Marijuana helps me with the confusion and disorientation and also irritability parts of my psychosis. But basically, this person made an art project about dementia. Basically, I'll link it down in the description so you guys can listen to the full album and also look at the pictures. I highly recommend it. It is really good. And as someone who does struggle with some mental disabilities, this shit really hit me really, really hard for multiple reasons. Both, unfortunately, a really, really scary fact is people with autism, intellectual disability, and psychosis are really high risk for having early onset dementia. Especially if you have vitamin deficiencies, it can also raise the risk. I'm not a doctor, so any doctors in my comment section, feel free to comment me. I mean, not comment me. I mean, you're allowed to comment. I'm not saying you can't. If you weren't allowed to comment, the comments would be turned off. But you're allowed to correct me on misinformation. But yeah. I know I've made a video talking about my experience with psychosis, but I wanted to talk more in depth about certain things I don't think I've ever talked about with anyone other than a psychiatrist or a therapist. Because, like, when I talk to my family about it, they are supportive, but as far as me and my family know, I am the only other person who has a form of psychosis other than another family relative of mine. Only me and one other family relative of mine have a form of psychosis. I'm not going to say who because that's their medical information and they want to remain anonymous. But someone else in my family, I'm pretty sure, does have either psychosis or bipolar disorder. I don't remember which one. But both disorders are genetically linked. So, like, if, for example, you're a mother or a father or someone, a birth giver or a, like, person who, impregnates somebody, and let's just say you have bipolar disorder, hypothetically. To anybody who is watching who has bipolar disorder, I think you'll know what I'm talking about. Or if you have psychosis, you might know what I'm talking about. Let's just say you were either diagnosed with bipolar disorder or psychotic disorder. In my case, I was diagnosed with psychotic disorder, which is somewhat similar to bipolar disorder as well. So I do have manic episodes as well. I talk really, really fast, and my thoughts go 85 billion fucking miles per hour. Let's just say you were diagnosed with one or both of these disorders, and you either give birth or your significant other gives birth to a child. But then later on, that child ends up having the same disorders as you, or disorder. Like, both bipolar disorder and psychosis are more often than not comorbid, meaning they are more likely to be, you're more than likely to be diagnosed with one if you're diagnosed with the other, So, what a lot of doctors will not tell you about being psychotic or being bipolar or having certain mental disabilities is that it puts you at really high risk for having shit like dementia or Alzheimer's. In rare cases, Batten disease, which is basically very much early, very, very early. Sorry about my flags moving in the background. The ceiling fan is on. I don't know if you guys can see that, but my ceiling fan is on, so you can't really see it right now. But, I mean, you could faintly see it, like, at least for me, because I'm visually impaired. Excuse me. Sorry, I burp when I'm nervous, too. What I'm trying to say is certain mental disorders can put you at higher risk for developing something really fucking awful like dementia or Alzheimer's. I wanted to explain my experiences with memory issues. Here's a strange part of being being psychotic. Sorry. As a child, you have somewhat normal memory, but it occasionally kind of gets tangled. Kind of like how, how your, headphone cords get tangled up with other cords, and it takes you forever to untangle them? That's kind of how psychosis started for me, was my memories got more, jumbled, and I was slightly more irritable at first. I've always had really bad anger issues ever since I was a kid. I've gotten better because I take fucking medication for it. Shout out to my psychiatrist, and also my mom for noticing the signs, thank God, because if I had gone any longer, I could have died as a result of my psychosis causing me to have such extreme anger and lack of impulse control. But basically, the way it feels, like the first couple stages, there are actually stages to psychosis. Psychosis can, not always, but can be progressive. It depends on your genetic makeup and also if you ever done drugs or alcohol in the past. And unfortunately, like, I've never been a drug addict or an alcoholic. Some of my friends and family members have been either drug addicts or alcoholics, so I know I am higher risk for becoming an addict. That's why, like, when it comes to, like, drinking or smoking weed, I am especially very, very careful because I do not want to risk getting addicted to some fucking nasty shit. But, like, oh yeah, I was talking, see, this is kind of the, like, things that happen in my head, kind of similar to what people with dementia go through, which I will start rambling on about random things, and then I'll forget what I'm talking about, and I will be, like, right now I feel very disoriented and confused. This happens to me 8 or 9 times a day, sometimes only 5 or 6 on a good day, but my memory, it's mostly, unlike dementia where it just affects both long and short-term memory, for psychotic people, for most of us, it affects short-term memory. Although some of us, yes, it can affect long-term memory, but definitely not to the same extent that dementia or Alzheimer's does. But I remember one of the first times I've noticed that my memory was declining and I started experiencing hallucinations and delusions. I think I was 10 or 11 at the time. I was like really, really young. I was just starting to hit puberty. What my family and I did not know was I was showing alarming signs of early onset psychosis. Which if you get early onset psychosis, you're at high risk for having early onset dementia or early onset Alzheimer's, which absolutely scares the shit out of me because although I am very forgetful in certain situations, I am able to eventually recover, not necessarily the memories fully accurately, but I'm able to like recover them in a way that I kind of know what was happening. Like I have enough awareness to be able to kind of put the pieces together with the help of like other people around me. I do occasionally need help remembering things. But when I was like 10 or 11 or 12, one of those free ages, I remember one of the like really first like really scary experiences I had with psychosis was I was on the school bus and we were on our way like to a field trip, and midway through the like school bus ride, I feel really upset just by thinking about it because it was really, really scary, and I'm pretty sure, I don't know 100%, because I think my mind also blocked out this memory because of how bad the memory was, but I am very certain that I might have either had a severe panic attack or a anxiety attack, which are two different things, by the way. Anxiety attacks are just slightly more mild panic attacks, except for a lot of people who do have anxiety attacks, you're able to like operate on autopilot, I guess you could say, which does, like, I do have anxiety attacks 7 or 8 times a day. But I am still able to function. Like I could be, for example, in the middle of cleaning and I could have an anxiety attack and I could still keep cleaning because my brain automatically knows, oh, time to turn on autopilot. My logical brain ain't working, so time to turn on autopilot. But as I was saying, I'm sorry I keep going off track because I might also be having a manic episode. I'm not fully aware of what's going on right now. So, um, I think, like, sorry it stopped recording. But anyway, sometimes when I get really, really happy, my memory actually gets worse when I'm happy. And excuse me, feeling too strong of emotions can cause me to have manic episodes. Excuse me again, wow. Also, lack of bodily control is also a symptom of psychosis. So that's why you always hear me burp in so many videos, because I literally do not have full control of my body. So, yeah, in my case, it's mostly burping and coughing uncontrollably. I don't know why those two things that my brain chose to have that happen, but it happens. So, as I was saying, oh my god, I keep getting distracted by literally my own brain, so I'm sorry. Uh, as I was saying, I remember I was on this bus, like, on my way to, like, a field trip, and midway through, like, the bus ride, I forgot where the hell we were going. Like, and I think the teachers thought I was messing with them, but I genuinely was not messing with them. This has happened to me several times in my life. But now I'm able to handle it better because I'll just simply ask, like, yo, where the hell are we going? I forgot. But as a kid, I didn't understand what the hell was happening. I was really, really scared. But I remember asking the teacher, where am I? Where are you taking me? And I was kind of scared. But the teacher managed to calm me down relatively quickly, luckily. And she's like, we're on our way to a field trip to the water park, remember? And I'm like, oh, wait, we were going there? And the teacher's like, yeah, your mom, like, she gave you your swimsuit and she told you to make sure to put on sunblock to, like, go to the water park because you do burn easily because of medical conditions you have, which, yes, I do burn very easily. I have albinism, so I need to be fucking drenched in, like, 85,000 liters of, like, sunblock because I am also higher risk for skin cancer. Yay. And I also have to be checked yearly because I'm at 30. I think, if I remember correctly, with my type of albinism, I'm like 45% more likely to get skin cancer. And I always check my body to see if anything weird with my skin is going on because I get super paranoid, like, oh my god, what if I get skin cancer? Because I had a friend who had a cancer scare like 2 or 3 years ago that really made me realize, oh shit, this could happen to me. But anyway, and the teacher, like, she explained to me where we were going, the exact location, what we're gonna do for lunch, and she was relatively patient with me when I kept asking questions about where we were going because I kind of forgot where we were going. And the teacher is like, what do you want to do there? And, like, luckily the teacher, like, knew how to calm me down. This particular female staff was, like, really nice to me. And she was talking to me about what we'll do there, what we'll do for lunch, and what we will do when we get back to school. And I was like, awesome. Thanks for reminding me where we were going. And she's like, no problem. And I think she kind of knew that something was starting to happen to my memories. So I think that particular year, the school's like, yo, something very concerning is going on with their mental health. Something might be wrong with Star. You should probably get them into therapy or something. But I think that was, like, one of the first times that I realized something was very, very wrong. Like, not like, it wasn't like my autism. It was something else very, very different. I noticed that there was something wrong, but I did not know how to verbalize it. I just thought, oh, maybe I was really tired. So when I got home, I remember I crawled into bed and I fell asleep. Even though as a kid I hated naps. I thought that was so tired that I was delirious, essentially. But I remember one other really like terrible incident involving my memory that happened was I was in the mall and I was 13 or 14 at this point, and I had just gone out of the mental hospital at that time, and like my mom's like, I'm going to the bathroom, and I'm like, okay. But then I kind of forgot she went to the bathroom, and I was really scared for a second because I honestly thought my mom abandoned me because I forgot where she was going. And I was like, Mom, where are you? And then she saw me having an anxiety attack. And she's like, I'm right here. It's okay. It's okay. Like, she calmed me down. But I was scared absolutely shitless because I thought I was just left behind in the mall alone in public. My legally blind, psychotic ass lost in public and knowing that I could like be taken advantage of easily. But those are the two most worst incidences involving my memory. Luckily, nothing too extreme ever happens when it comes to like my memory being trash. But like it is still really scary to deal with this shit daily because I could like be in my room 1 minute and then I blink and then I'm like in someone's car and I don't remember what happened. But yeah, my memories are bad, and unfortunately, because I wasn't diagnosed with psychosis until like 2022, October of 2020. No, it was October of 2021 actually. Like, I wasn't diagnosed with psychosis until October of 2021, and people didn't know what was going on with me. People thought that it was just my autism getting worse as I've gone older. But that very, very rarely ever happens with autistic kids and autistic adults. Most of the time it either stays the way it is or it improves slightly. But when I was diagnosed with psychosis, like the person who diagnosed me asked me, like, do you have problems with your memory and spatial awareness? Like, I mean, like, do you have problems with knowing where you are? And I said yes, not just because of my vision, but also because I literally forget where I'm at. Like, I'll have large gaps in my memory of like, I will not remember, like, for example, walking from my house to in the middle of a store. And the guy, he was like, that makes a lot of sense. Some psychotic people can have really, really, really big gaps in their memory. Also, if you watch Arcane, sorry that I keep referencing Arcane on my channel. Arcane is my special interest. But you know those scenes of like Jinx being very disoriented? This happens to a lot of psychotic people every single day. I don't think there's ever been a single day that I have not been disoriented at least once that day. Like earlier today, I was very disoriented, and I remember like I got really lightheaded because I do get lightheaded when I'm anxious. And all of a sudden, like, I remember being in the kitchen in early afternoon, and then the next thing I know, like, two hours ago, I just remember waking up in bed, and I'm like, what the hell happened? But then I kind of put the pieces together and realized, oh, I went to the kitchen to get food, but I forgot what I was doing. So I went to bed and slept for like several hours. My mom makes jokes I'm nocturnal because of that kind of shit I do a lot. Which she isn't entirely wrong. I am kind of nocturnal sometimes. Never knew a human being could be nocturnal until recent years of my life. So Also, my sister's, not my little sister, although she does wish to be nocturnal. My older sister kind of does have a similar situation going on, except for different reasons, which I will not disclose, because although, yes, she has been in one of my YouTube videos before. I believe it was the Japanese snack unboxing, Japanese snacks one. She also has memory problems, but I guess she's able to figure out what's going on faster because she has more mental capabilities than I do, basically. But for me, I have a harder time essentially untangling the wires in my mind because this shit was not happening to me my entire life. It did not start happening to me until I hit puberty and started showing signs of psychosis. So yeah, I'd recommend looking into that dementia art project that I talked about earlier. It might also help you guys understand what psychotic people and bipolar people also go through. And in some really severe cases of depression, some people with depression also go through it. For me, my depression also causes extreme brain fog, not frog, and also lack of awareness in certain situations, which my depression does also cause that too. I recommend looking into that because it's a really good way to understand what people with learning disabilities and neurological disabilities often do go through. And I have both learning disabilities and neurological disabilities. The neurological disability I have is autism, although it is classified as both neurodevelopmental and also a learning disability, so it fits into one category of a disorder because it has both physical and mental characteristics. Yeah. Having psychosis is really, really scary. But honestly, a bad day of psychosis is like a good day of having dementia or Alzheimer's, which is absolutely horrible to think about. Like, I feel so bad for people. Like, I genuinely feel so bad for people whose brains are like deteriorating so fast to where like not even medication could help. All it can do is ease the pain. While my medication does help and it does treat it, there's not very many options for people with dementia or Alzheimer's. I don't know if this particular family member of mine had Alzheimer's or dementia, but I remember one of my grandparents, one day in like, I believe the morning, one of my grandmothers, she woke up and she went to take care of her husband, and her husband didn't recognize who she was. And that particular day, she called my mom and she told me what was going on. And when my mom told me about it, I don't know why, but I was honestly, I kind of figured out, holy shit, this could actually happen to me too. And this could happen to like my sisters or my brother as they and I get older. Like, what if like one of them gets it really early in life, which is honestly really scary to think about because mental disabilities do put you at high risk for that happening to you. I think ADHD also puts you at high risk for that too. So I also thought about my friends who had learning disabilities, and I'm like, what if this happens to them early in life? Stop recording again. But anyway, I always think like, what if one day I call them on Discord and they forget who I am? Like, what if I call them one day on Discord and they forget who I am and how they met me? Oh wow, I'm trying not to cry just thinking about it, but that's probably my biggest fear is, what if either I forget everyone I love or someone else I love forgets me and everyone they love. It's really scary to think about. And the fact I know this will happen to me very likely earlier in life is really scary to think about. It's really upsetting to think about the fact that I can't have kids because I could risk passing something really horrible like that down to them. And I absolutely do not want to put another human being through that. I never ever want to put a human being through that. Even if it was somebody who did something horrendous and unforgivable, I still would not wish that upon them. Like, absolutely not. That just sounds like the worst thing in the world. Forgetting people that you've known your whole entire life. That is horrible. That is, beyond words, horrible. And I know for a fact that this could also happen to my parents too. So, and I know that they're getting older, and I've been thinking about it recently, and the thought of my mom or my dad waking up one day and then them seeing me and not knowing who I am, or who my little brother or little sister or older sister are, or my older sister's boyfriend is, that scares me. That absolutely scares me. And I know it's going to happen within 20 or 30 years of my life, which may not seem like that close, that short of time, but from what I've learned growing up, time goes by faster the older you get. And I know this for a fact because it recently started happening to me. Everything's like a blur to me because, well, this happens to people when they're older, just in general. And I'm really scared of that happening. And I'm actually being serious. I am really, really scared of that happening. Some of my family members did die from really horrible things. I will not disclose that either. But I know for a fact that, like, one day my parents won't recognize me anymore. And they won't recognize anybody in our family anymore. And then one day it will happen to my older sister first because she's the oldest, and then I'm next, and then my little brother's next, and then my little sister. That's scary to think about. Psychosis is only like a very, very small, like, water drop of that happening. I could barely deal with having psychosis. I am honestly very, very fortunate that I do not need antipsychotics to manage it. I am on mood stabilizers. Like, yes, they are really strong mood stabilizers, but they are not a controlled substance, like, meaning a substance that I could get addicted to, because psychotic people are at really high risk for addiction as well. Most of my friends who are psychotic also struggle with some kind of addiction. I am very lucky that the only addiction, like very serious and life-threatening addiction that I have is, well, actually technically 2 addictions, but I personally only consider it one addiction because they both fall under the same umbrella, which is self-harm and eating disorders. But I am very, very lucky. My addictions are mild, very mild, compared to what most addicts go through. But another part of psychosis that involves memory is distortion of memories as well, which, in my opinion, it's worse than just forgetting things altogether. Because sometimes I remember things that did not even happen. Sometimes I remember people that never existed. And sometimes I remember relationships that I very possibly never had in my life. Like, I remember my third or fourth relationship, but what's scary is that it possibly like never happened. Or like, I remember meeting XYZ person, but there are high chances that they might not exist, which is scary to think about. It's really, really scary thinking about. And no, I'm not making this video to like make people feel sorry for me. I want to clarify. I just wanted to talk about this because this is an important subject to me. Just the subject of memories and forgetting, and my psychosis is probably the biggest part of my life because it is the disorder that has impacted me the most. I am very, very lucky and grateful that I don't have anything like physically life-threatening going on with me. Only a couple like mental disorders and learning disabilities. But I know when I get older, something much, much worse could happen to me. And if it doesn't happen to me, I might very likely be alive to witness that happen to someone else. I honestly would rather it happen to me than someone I care about, and I genuinely mean that. Because nobody ever deserves to go through that. Like, absolutely no one deserves to go through that. That's a terrible thing to go through. And I would never ever wish that upon anyone, even if I hated the person. I would never wish that upon them. And I know you might be thinking, Star, you're really petty though. Yes, I know I am very petty, but I am not that much of an asshole. Like, yeah, I could be an asshole at times, but I'm not that much of an asshole. Like, you know what I mean? But yeah, like this video if you guys want a part 2 of me just talking about, actually technically part 3 of me talking about my experience with psychosis, because psychosis is probably the hardest disorder I've ever had to deal with. And I know a lot of people are like, Star, dude, you're on medication for it. Guess what? It still affects me daily. There are some days that my depression and anxiety don't affect me at all. But that's because treatments for depression and anxiety are more effective than treatments for psychosis. Because, like, depression and anxiety was one of the very earliest documentations of mental disorders. Like, they were the very first mental disorders to have treatment options. Psychotic disorder only like in like the 60s or 70s, if I remember correctly, they only started like treating psychosis and other things like schizophrenia or bipolar disorder. Like 40 or 50 years ago, they only had just started discovering ways to treat it without doing permanent damage to the patient's brain. But a lot of people, like, treatment doesn't fully work on them, which is really sad, because psychosis is the closest thing to having dementia without having the extreme mental decline to where, like, you can't walk or talk that it could ever get. Like, the closest it will ever get without basically dying and also decaying from the inside out. Psychosis is just one drop of poison, basically. But thank you guys for watching me rant about this. I just wanted to talk about my thoughts on that particular art project and my experiences of memory issues related to my psychosis, and also my fear of it getting worse. Because that is a more recent fear that I started getting because I started having intrusive thoughts about it. So I feel better talking to you guys about it. And thank you guys for listening to me. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye.